In this video, Dr. Julia Seton explains that there is a relationship between concentrating, breath, and manifesting. Hello, I am Daisy. Welcome to my channel. Before I go on, I want to really tell you how I really appreciate you being a part of this community, for subscribing, for leaving me your comments and your likes. It really means the world to me. And if you're new to my channel, yes, it's a bit eclectic. It is a part of what I like to share with you. And in some way, whether it's through the books or through my oracles, if it brings you a sense of peace, a sense of clarity, then I feel like I've done something special for you. All right. Now, this video is titled Concentration, the Secret of Success by Dr. Julia Seton. This is the second video of this series and will contain the remaining chapters. Dr. Julia Seton further explains the different stages of breathing and how to breathe to create alignment with the supraconsciousness. And she also stated that learning how to breathe at all planes of our being is important so that we know how to tap into the energy that creates. And she says it's quite simple. So to that end, she offers an explanation and techniques on how to breathe and exercises so that we can attain those different planes. So sit back as we connect with Dr. Julia Seton's words and learn to contact the universal supply of health, wealth, happiness, and all our heart's desire. Concentration, the Secret of Success by Dr. Julia Seton. We continue now with the next chapter titled Breathing and Concentration. There are many textbooks on breathing, so many, in fact, that the student halts in a maze of wonder as to which to follow. They are all good, and each teaches some part of truth. There's nothing the developing world does half so imperfectly as breathing. Air is life. To breathe it is to keep ourselves alive, young, strong, and vigorous on the physical plane. And on the subjective plane, we can use our breath as a vehicle by which we reach the divine life. Most students think breathing is a hard and strenuous task, and only to be accomplished after long and persistent application. It is hard to tell where this opinion had its origin. It is not true, never was, and never will be. It is the most natural and simple thing in the world to breathe for the energy that creates, and do it on all the planes of our being. It does not mean a violent gymnastic respiratory effort, persisted in indefinitely, nor an hour of shutting ourselves away from interruption, nor a going to the mountaintop. Nothing of the kind. It means just a simple in and out passage of the physical breath, done consciously and for a definite purpose. Just a breathing out of all the dead, worn out things within us, and an in-breathing of all the vital, pulsing things which we desire, floated into our being through the connection of our breath life with the all-life ether which encircles us. We can make contact with the universal supply of health, wealth, happiness, in fact, with everything we want at any time in our everyday life, anywhere we may be at the time of our need. We can vitalize ourselves inwardly and outwardly with this great creative energy just as easily when in a crowd of people or hanging on to a strap in a crowded car as we can if we were alone on a mountaintop or locked in the seclusion of our own room. There is one sure and certain way to make this connection with divine supply, and one which everyone may use and demonstrate as a good way. That is through concentration. Thinking creatively of the thing we need, and then breathing ourselves into connection with it. We may concentrate forever, and if we do not place ourselves as a scientific link between our need and the supply, we will never make it ours. We hear people say, I have concentrated for years, have never faltered in my thinking, have believed and worked and never laid down my hope, and yet today I do not make good my concentration, and I must believe that there is something wrong with this philosophy. Where do these students fall down in their results? It is simply because they have worked entirely on the receptive side and have not created. The one who desires and does not breathe to create his desires is not really at one-ment. There is no other way of demonstrating our control and power except through the power of our breath. When we have learned the true science of the breath, we will never want for anything, but we will keep our concentration until, through this increasing development, we pass into that divine knowledge of the Spirit where we understand that we breathe the breath of life into our own nostrils. It is given us before we ask, but we must take it. In our everyday physical world, our point of contact with physical things is our hands. If we want anything that is anywhere within our reach, what do? We don't sit down in hopeless despair and mourn, concentrate, hope and pray for it, and almost cry because it does not leave its present position and come to where we are. No, indeed. We just square ourselves for a big reach and, taking our position firmly, we reach out, clasp it with our hands, haul it bodily into place, and put it just where we want it. What our hands are on the physical plane, our breath may become for us on the subjective plane, if we learn how to use it consciously. The laws of the subjective world are no more complex than are those of the objective. Only the student does not understand the instruments of the subjective plane so well as he does those of his physical surroundings. Concentration is the first step toward attraction and attainment. It places us in the correct position with the universal forces and makes it possible for us to get ready for a strong pull in the right direction. Have you ever seen a crowd of men getting ready to hoist a heavy beam? The foreman gives the word to get ready. The men all take their own point of vantage for a lift, and then with one strong, tremendous pull, the beam slowly swings into place. This is physical concentration, physical actualization. The concentration of the mind is the same. The reaching out of the breath is the same, only working with the invisible law of God, which is just as tangible on its own plane. When we have placed ourselves and concentrated upon the thing we want in the universal supply and breathed for it consciously and persistently, there is no more chance for it to escape us than there is for the beam to refuse to obey the strong physical strength of those who will it into place. Long, deep physical breath raise our bodily vibrations until we are enabled to unite subjectively with everything in the cosmic ether around us. When this union is perfect on both planes, we can draw into our environment everything we want. It is better to concentrate on and breathe for one thing at a time, for not many of us are equal to the task of doing more than one thing at a time and doing it well. We can afford to let everything take its turn in our life. We do not have to hurry. Let us be sure we know what we want. We cannot make contact for actualization if we are halting and unformed in our desires. The law exists to be fulfilled only for those who have power to command their own creations. When we begin these creations, there will be times when we feel that, in spite of our concentration, we have not connected. Our thoughts will not rise higher than our head. Never mind. It is only because we have not yet succeeded in raising our physical vibration. We can breathe ourselves onto the mountaintops of feeling, and after a while we will seem to pass on to any plane we wish. When our vibrations are equal on all planes, we become filled with a sense of eternal possession and no longer recognize a condition as possible that can separate us from our desires. The conscious, rhythmical breathing persisted in from day to day will and does polarize us with the universal supply and lift us en rapport with the great ocean of actualization. This is the law. There is no appeal from it. The one who operates it consciously and powerfully receives according to the degree he vitalizes it. The key to life is the law. Know the law. Get operation of the law, and the rest follows just as naturally as the current runs along the wire. End of chapter. Stay right here. We're going to flip the page to the next chapter titled Directions for Breathing During Concentration. Wonderful power will manifest as a natural sequence to correct breathing. The student should take from 10 minutes to half an hour to concentrate according to the rapidity with which his mind is capable of seizing and formulating ideas. During such concentration, decide which of the attributes necessary for development you most require, as each is a distinct force. Concentrate upon it in all its bearings, upon that to which you will devote its power when won. Make the desire impersonal as well as personal. Condense the subject of concentration into one word, if possible, or a very few words. When concentration is ended, commence movements by placing yourself in as tranquil a mood as possible. With every inhalation, think the word or words which are the subject for concentration. When inhaling, hold yourself positive, except in such cases as will be mentioned later. That is, hold the purpose of retaining and assimilating the force desired. Try to realize that with every inhalation, you are in reality drawing from an unlimited supply, the needed force. This can only be accomplished by faith in the beginning, but gradually you will realize that you are becoming stronger, and faith will give way to knowledge, and you will see that you are literally drawing into yourself the energy that creates and which must ultimately give the desired power. Every spiritual as well as material idea, object, or attribute exists primarily as energy in the universal mind and is capable of being attracted by individually developed minds into their aura to augment its kind, and there remains to be dissipated in form according to the power and development of the individual. If the idea of health should be chosen, consider yourself as perfectly healthy, harmonious, symmetrical, in fact, just as you would desire yourself to be as regards health. If some particular organ is affected, hold the image of a perfectly healthy organ in your mind while thinking the word and breathing. When you desire to send some requisite force to another person, hold yourself as an instrument through which the force may be disseminated, drawing it to yourself by inhalation, releasing and directing it by exhalation. Holding yourself positive in exhalation. Never send anything but an impersonal force. Remember that nothing comes back to you but the things you send out. So be very careful of your creations. Make every conscious creation one of health, wealth, and love, both for yourself and all others. Some students require considerable practice to enable them to concentrate upon one word or sentence throughout the series of movements, but gradually the power will be attained. Remember that not only this life, but many others have been given to the negative creations, and you cannot expect to undo in a day that which has taken centuries to accomplish. So be patient with yourself. Remember that we build the ladder by which we rise from the lowly earth to the vaulted skies, and we mount to its summit round by round. End of chapter. We continue to the next chapter, titled Breathing exercises. All inhalations should be made through the nostrils, all exhalations through the mouth. 1. Stand evenly on the bottom of both feet, with hands hanging at sides. Draw in the breath slowly while raising hands outward and upward until backs of hands touch above the head. Then slowly exhale air, letting hands fall until first position is resumed. 2. Stand with hands raised above the head, palms out. Exhale while lowering hands and describing half circle, touching toes as nearly as possible without bending knees. Inhale slowly, raising hands, resuming first position. 3. Hold arms at sides. While inhaling slowly, raise right arm until perpendicular. While exhaling, lower right arm and raise the left. Then inhale again, and while inhaling, lower left arm and raise the right as before, and so on. 4. Stand upright and bend from the waistline, first to the right as far as possible, then to the left in same manner. Inhale while bending to the right, exhale while bending to the left. 5. If you have any organic disease, do not take this exercise without consulting a physician. Inhale slowly, drawing in until the lungs are filled and the abdomen extended as far as possible. Retracting abdomen, exhale until the organs are in a normal position. 6. Fill the lungs slowly. When filled, exhale as quickly as possible in 3 spasmodic movements. 7. Inhale as quickly as possible and exhale slowly in 3 spasmodic movements. 8. Stand upright with arms hanging. While inhaling, bend the body from the hips slowly forward as far as possible. Exhale as you straighten up and bend back. A weight or dumbbell weighing from 2 to 5 pounds may be held in each hand when it is desirable to increase muscular action. 9. Lie down on the floor, feet together, arms at sides. Fill the lungs with air and hold it until you have twice raised and lowered your arms above your head horizontally, touching the backs of the hands together. Exhale slowly as the arms lower the last time. 10. Take a full breath while lying on the floor. Extend the arms full length perpendicularly in front of the chest. Touch hands. Open arms until hands touch floor on either side of you twice. Exhale while bringing arms up the last time. 11. Still lying on the floor, inhale while raising the right leg until it is as nearly as possible perpendicular with the body. Exhale while raising right and lowering left in the same manner. Repeat. 12. Still lying on the floor, inhale slowly, drawing in until the lungs are filled and the abdomen extended as far as possible. Retracting abdomen, exhale until the organs are in a normal position. If you have any organic disease, this exercise should not be taken until you have consulted a physician. The movements of each exercise should be made from 5 to 20 times. After the student has fully mastered the breath, he can drop these physical exercises, taking simply the thought, projecting the image, and pass directly into the silence. breath, concentration, silence. This is the trinity of creation. The cosmos knows its own laws. From it is our human life born. End of chapter. I'm going to go ahead and flip to the next chapter right here on this video. This next chapter is titled Directions for Concentrating. The student should first get physical silence. He should sit or stand in a comfortable position and get perfect relationship with his body. One cannot go far in centralization or creation when an uncomfortable foot, hand, or chair demands attention. Get right on the physical plane first before you start to find other levels of consciousness. The next step is to centralize in consciousness. Stop diverse thinking. Pick up one thought, no matter what, and hold the mind to it as long as possible. Try this over and over until the mind will keep to the one thought from 5 to 10 minutes. If the thought of health is chosen, think health, of all it would mean, what use it would be, what we mean by health. Think of it in all its details. Work out a fine understanding of just what health is and what it means to possess it. If the mind wanders or thoughts drift in, displace them again and again with the conscious thought of health, until only the health thought remains. Whatever word is taken for centralization, practice with it until it can be held to the exclusion of any other thought, before passing on to the next step of conscious imaging. After having centralized, the next step is to build these thoughts into form. If the thought has been health, we begin to see the self just as we want it to be. Every life knows just how it wants to be. Everyone has a divine image which their higher consciousness holds before them, whispering just what they may become. Find this image and live and luxuriate in the belief that it is manifesting now. We try to see ourselves perfect at once. This is imaging wholeness. But if we cannot see wholeness all at once, take up one thing at a time. First, take that which we believe is the least perfect and see it whole. No matter what it is, see a perfect image and be blind to anything less than this perfect image. Creation in consciousness comes slowly to some students. The old distorted self will intrude negative ideas again and again into the thought world. But after repeating this creation powerfully for a while, the act of consciously imaging wholeness becomes easy, and no time is needed to project a perfected image. At each concentration, the image can be worked upon, and each time it will become more perfect. Conscious imaging is the greatest secret of the present age. It has always been used since mind began, but in the past it was used without a full understanding of its power. The metaphysicians, hypnotists, suggestive science teachers have always included it in their methods, but we were unconscious of its real value and never instructed their patients in its deep spiritual meaning. There is not an hour of our life that we are acting without an image. Every thought, every word carries with it the form. If someone speaks the word rose, we at once see some kind of a rose. We do not see a tulip or any other kind of flower, but something which we have called a rose immediately takes form in our mind. We cannot read a poem or a story, but our mind follows form in picture projection. Someday I'll wander back again to where the old home stands. Beneath the old tree, down the lane of far and distant lands. what do we see? Read this quotation again and think about the picture of our idea centers project. It is not hard to see it. Just as the teacher of drawing reads a story to the class and then has each one draw just what his idea centers registered, just so is life always telling a story, and we are pushing out into consciousness the forms we have power to project. There are some minds which are full of negative images. Their whole field of consciousness is lined with distorted thought forms of poverty, lack, disease, fear, shanties, and hovels built for themselves in consciousness and revitalized every day by their own energy. Then they turn with puny questioning and wonder why their objective life is hourly taking on the same expression. We must learn this lesson, that just what we project into form in consciousness cannot refuse to manifest for us in our external world. We must know that we can never expect perfect manifestation from imperfectly formulated thought images. Some of our first images must, through ignorance, be very crude. So are the artist's first pictures, or a poet's poems, or a composer's songs, or an architect's plans. But as we go on mastering the art of creating in consciousness, we grow more and more perfect until we can really build a temple not made with hands and a house eternal in the heavens. After we have centralized and created, then the next step is the silence. This is where we make our own life the link between the great creative spirit of the universe and the thing we have created. Through life comes life. And when we have finished our work and rested in this infinite energy, we make our own life the scientific link between the energy that creates and the thing we have created. And it flows through us, vitalizing our creations into form. We remain in the silence, knowing it is finished, until we feel the return of active thoughts. Then we come again to our common human life and walk on, expecting hourly to meet the things which we have projected. First, just an abiding knowledge of the thing we want, just a conscious projection of a perfect image, beatific, glorified, just a consciousness of infinite supply, just a holding of our own thought world steadily as a flame glows, then walking on each day in calm security, turning again and again into peaceful at-one-ment with our source. This is the pathway of the strong, the whole, the useful. Their life is the light of the world, and a city set on a hill cannot be hid. End of chapter. We're going to move on to the next chapter. Please do hit that like button. Directions for going into the silence. In the beginning, the student needs to be alone. He should have a time and place in which to begin his exercises. The first thing is to take a comfortable position, either standing, sitting, or lying down, as may best suit him. He should then choose the attribute he wishes to develop and take from 10 to 15 minutes to concentrate on it. He should think of it in all its details, just what possession would mean to him. He should create it from the mental attitude of interior possession. If health is chosen, he should see himself just as he would be. No matter what subject may be chosen, he should always see the perfect interior expressions of it. He should never build anything but a perfect image and feel that it is capable of being materialized by him. The next step is to begin the in-breathing of long, deep breaths, and at every breath he should feel and know that he is really drawing to himself from an inexhaustible supply everything he desires. And he really is, For every material as well as every spiritual thing exists as force in the universal energy and is capable of being attracted into especially developed auras, and they're lifted aloft in form. After the student has concentrated and established a rhythmical breathing, he should feel that it is finished and then proceed to pass himself into the great creative silence, where the thing he creates can become vitalized with an indestructible energy. The last step is to withdraw the mind from the external world, to relax and live in the full consciousness of power, and this is accomplished by assuming a listening attitude. Get quiet, quiet, and still more quiet. Listen, listen. This is the way to the center of being. Listen, listen, listen. So deep that you can hear your own heartbeat. When you can hear the beating or even feel fully the vibrations of your blood pulsing through your heart, you have come close into the universal rhythm and are awake in the supra consciousness of your own mind, and you are ready to make the great creative cosmic union. In this atmosphere, we create by just the act of recognition. We know that we are. This is not thought force. It is revelation. We retain this consciousness of infinite union until every fiber of ourselves passes from the state of becoming into being. Then we have finished our silence for that time and can return to take up the common consciousness of our daily life. We now find ourselves strong, vital, vibrant, with a new power which was secured in this state of spiritual chemicalization. Some lives seem to take a long time to develop to this point of understanding, but it is not really a hard nor wearisome task to find the center of being within us. The perfect rhythm of the breath should be established during concentration, so that when we go into the deeper consciousness, the breath may take care of itself. It will be useless to attempt to awaken the superconscious mind if the breathing is tense or demands conscious attention or control. The physical breath is only the expression of divine atmosphere, and once the physical rhythm is established, no more attention need be given to it. Breath on the higher plane is simply life. It is only the soft, natural, deep passing in and out of the physical breath, done first consciously and for a definite purpose, then relinquished and carried on by natural relationship. It is not a strange, mysterious, metaphysical thing, this going into the silence, but a sane, scientific, tangible truth which anyone who cares to know may demonstrate for himself, and the inevitable outcome of it is perfect development, is wholeness. Just a moment of powerful concentration, just a moment of stillness deep as life itself, just a moment of conscious infinite union, and our human mind becomes the perfectly adjusted wireless instrument which registers the cosmic intelligence and secures its messages. Remember, a concentration so full of force that it is alive, an inbreathing of cosmic energy, then a stillness so intense that we touch the cosmic heart, then superconscious recognition of our oneness. Our being is then flooded with a divine power, and we become as one who walks a pathway fashioned from the stars and sheds his light about him as he goes. End of chapter. Moving on to the next chapter right here on this video, we will turn the page. The true silence. Where do we go when we go into the silence? Not many students really know. They have a confused idea of stillness, but beyond the plane of physical silence, few there are who have any real conscious correspondence. The silence is simply the functioning of the supraconscious mind of man, and is a condition normal to everyone. It is capable of being brought into expression by those who know the true laws of their own mind. There are 3 states of consciousness with which each individual may become familiar. The first is the common mind, or that part of the mind which is always busy with the external world and its laws. The second is the subconscious mind, or the mind of the psychic self. This is simply the film of the camera behind the lens of the objective or common consciousness or mind. The third is the supraconscious mind, and is simply that part of the consciousness with which we contact the higher etheric vibrations and register them in the psychic mind to be used as thought force in our common mind. We can live at will in each one or all of these states of mind. And we are known by the amount of power we express in them all. We all know the individual who has no correspondence with any of them except the common consciousness. He gives us a distinct picture of his personal self. The exaltation of his personal ego is too plain to be mistaken. He is a knower of things, a manipulator of the world of form. He lives in a material world, in a material body with 5 material senses, and everything outside of his common mind and its functions he calls a fad, a freak, or something visionary. He is normally related to the physical universe, and he stays normally related until, by the great cosmic law of evolution, something stirs within his being which lets him know there are still some things he does not know. The psychic or subconscious mind is that state of consciousness formed by the union of the common and superconsciousness. It does not exist in itself. It is the function of the psychic self, and it keeps intact all that is given it. It pours these records back in the common mind whenever anything stimulates it into action. One who is living in the control of the psychic self and its mind is introspective, abstract, incoherent, and often useless. This part of the mind should only be used as a storehouse in which the experiences of life are kept. The superconscious mind is that state of consciousness which registers the higher cosmic vibrations. It is the wireless station which catches the universal messages. It is always receiving and sending out radiant energy, vitalizing both the common and subconscious mind with power. When one knows the truth of the existence of this function of his own mind, he has indeed found the well of water within himself from which he can drink, and it becomes in him a well of water springing up into the everlasting life. Most students, in their first attempts to get into the silence, never get farther than the place where they go to sleep. This is a natural action of the common mind, for its function is to deal with thoughts, and when it is no longer needed to do this, its next function is to sleep. In order to go on, the student must first master the art of stilling his common mind and yet keep it awake. After this is accomplished, he is ready to find the subconscious state. When one reaches the subconscious or psychic mind, he at once becomes auto-hypnotic, and feels an inclination to remain in a half-sleeping and half-awaking state. He grows more and more introspective and subjective until all subjective sense is lost. This is as far as some students ever get. They stay there luxuriating in subjective fancies and visions, returning to the common consciousness without ever having sensed the truth of the other state of power lying just a little further on. Just as one must conquer the habit of sleep in the common mind before he can find the true subjective self, so must he conquer the habit of visions, vibrations, and introspection of the subconscious mind before he can feel the real power of the supraconscious mind. The one who stops on the psychic level of consciousness of the subconscious mind will forever remain a babe in wisdom beside the one who, knowing the law, sets out to find its full expression. When we have awakened the psychic or subconscious mind, then we shall touch the supra part of our consciousness. And this is a place of absolute cessation of physical sensation. It is action of mind so high that it appears to be motionless and thoughtless. It is higher than the human thought production, and it comes surging through the being simply as energy. It is only momentary, and it touches as a flash of lightning. So quick and so intense is its expression. But the mind that touches it never forgets, and once touched, it can be touched again, until after a while the student can still his common mind, waken his psychic or subconscious mind energy, and contact with the supermind at will. And then, turning to the world life around him, his daily life will take on a power unknown by those who have only the contact of the common or even the subconscious or psychic mind. When we have made the common, the psychic, and the supra mind one, and operate them all from the spiritual power of the supra mind, we have returned to our source. And we can sink our string of thought into the fathomless, for we really are grappled to the rock of ages. End of chapter. And also the end of the reading of the book titled Concentration, The Secret of Success by Dr. Julia Seton. If you've enjoyed this, please do leave me your comment. Hit that like button and also subscribe to the channel as I keep adding more things. Come back and visit.